How can we find happiness when the world seems covered in grief? And maybe your life has a huge element of grief in it too, personally. I have had that in the last year where my personal life has been really difficult and challenging. And so when your business is going okay or well and your personal life isn't great, nothing's going great, right? You're only as happy as your least favorite child or your least happy child, and you're only as happy as your least big problem. So if you have grief in any area of your life, maybe you've lost a parent or a loved one. Maybe these world events are really hitting you hard. This is a note of love to all of my friends in the world, especially my Jewish friends. I just want you to know that I pray for you nightly. I think of you every day. I'm sending you so much support. I see what's happening and I'm heartbroken and an ally. Of course, we all don't want any innocent lives to be lost in everything that's happening right now. Well, how do we live our life? Let's say, for example, that right now you're in a great place. Really good things are happening for you, and yet there's this heaviness. How do you navigate that? And the truth is, while grief is heavy, none of us are just one thing, right? You can be happy and sad at the same time. In fact, some of my most exquisite life experiences have been shadowed by light and dark. It's kind of part of what we're made up of. And so I think to have some tools at the ready is really important. This isn't um, optional, because if you let it, grief will take you down, right? It is insidious, it is persistent, it is strong, it is heavy, and we have to be too. Because yes, we all have things that are unimaginable in our lives. We've all experienced things that feel like we'll never get to the other side of them, right? But we will. That's the good news. And so we have to, in that middle part where we're experiencing both dark and light, figure out a way to move forward authentically, realistically. And these are some tools to do that. The first thing is easy, right? It's you've got to embrace the emotions. I say that it's easy and we all know it's not. You're worried that if you start crying, you'll never stop, but you will. I've been there. I've cried so hard I've thrown up. We've all had horrible challenges, right? But I want you to know that avoiding those feelings never works. When you shove them down, they still linger. They're even worse because you haven't fully felt them. So I recommend you do that in a safe way, maybe with a therapist through BetterHelp, maybe with a best friend, maybe with a partner, maybe somebody in a support group that really understands, right? But you've got to start to let those emotions come out a little bit. I liken it to an overblown up balloon. And when you start to let the air out, sometimes it makes these horrible noises and it feels awful. It can even go flittering everywhere. But you've got to start letting that out, because as long as you keep those emotions bottled up, you're never going to be able to heal. You're never going to be able to carry the grief that is that heavy for so long. So embrace those emotions. When I do this, I've got all my tools. I've got my oils for trauma and grief. I've got my supplements. I've got my therapist, right? I've got my tissues and whatever else you need, but you've got to embrace those emotions. Next, you've absolutely got to get support. You cannot do this on your own. And this is where people stop because they think, I am so humiliated. I am so exhausted. I am so embarrassed, or I am so mad, or I am so hurt. I am so broken. How will I ever start to talk to somebody else about it? The last thing I need to do right now is have some insipid conversation with someone who wants to know what my relationship with my mother was like when I'm trying to breathe here, right? But until you get that support, and it does take work and it does take effort, you're not going to get as far as you need to go in any part of your life, in my opinion. When grief weighs us down and it's so heavy, it can trap us and it can make us feel stuck. And you deserve not to feel stuck. You deserve to feel again like you felt on your very best day. The day where the sun seemed brighter, where you seemed lighter. Maybe you were driving a car and the right song came on and the sunroof was open and everything seemed magical. You deserve that feeling in that day again. And when we don't express our grief and we don't get support with it, There's always that film over everything. So get your support. Then you've got to do self-care. And this isn't like some, oh, take a hot bath. I mean, serious self-care. The way I handle this when I'm grieving deeply is I treat myself like a baby, right? I'm struggling. So have I eaten? Have I gone to the bathroom? Do I need a bath? Do I need to sleep? The basics. Self-care in the basics. Maybe you can't get out of that bed. That's okay. Just sit up today, okay? Maybe you can't take that shower, but maybe you could just splash some water on your face today. That's movement, right? But taking care of yourself is critical here. It is not optional. It is not a pie in the sky, oh, let's just go get a massage, third world, second world, first world, blah, blah, blah. It is serious business. Self care needs to be strategic, it needs to be planned, it needs to be thought out, and it needs to be prioritized. I know you feel like you can't take a moment. I know that you feel like the grief that you're experiencing is probably part of a larger issue that's put your whole life in the turmoil world, right? But unless you say, I will get 8 hours of sleep, period. That is my priority. I will get 8 hours of sleep. I will make sure I eat 3 meals a day. I may not like them. They may not be perfect, but I will eat 3 meals a day, right? You've got to create some basic self care rituals that you are religious about, that you are committed to. And I'm telling you, it's going to help. Eating even a can of soup helps. Taking a brief shower helps, right? You've got to start coming back to our world because we need you. And you've got to find a way to hold this light and dark in your heart at the same time. Next is to focus on good memories. This is probably the hardest because it can be so bittersweet, right? And you may not be there yet, and that's okay, but that's a goal, is to focus on whether you can focus on the exact situation that's bringing you grief, or you just focus on days that were good for you, right? I remember when I made that Thanksgiving meal and everybody loved it. It was such a hit. It meant so much to me. I remember the Christmas when I was little and I slept by the fire at my grandfather's farmhouse and how magical it felt to be there, right? Whatever good memory you have, hold on to it, remember it, dig into it, right? And then last but not least, be okay with small steps. There is no schedule, there are no rules, right? But small steps count. And maybe those small steps will just add up over time. If you're experiencing grief deeply, I want you to know you're not alone. I believe every human being that exists on this planet at some point has felt extreme grief. But you are the only you we have. So while you can take a minute, and I want you to rest and I want you to take care of yourself, we do need you back at some point because you are the light in someone's life. You are the key to a problem that the world needs solved. You are an important part of this world, and you are valued and cared for and seen and loved and cherished. And so by doing these few things, I hope that it helps lift you a bit. And I hope that it helps you remember how very precious you are. So holding grief while it's heavy, you can do it. Have an amazing night, everyone. I love you so much. I'm so glad you're here.